Yes, everyone, you know what time it is. It's your boy Jack here at the Irish Hotspur, and we're going to be going through a bit of a stats experience with this Tottenham Hotspur squad. We're going to look at how they compare to each other amongst the squad, who's really dominating, who's having a great start to the season, but also we're going to be taking a look at how they compare to other sort of players around the Premier League in their positions and also just in general stats across sort of the board, and we're going to see how they rank. But everybody, if you can for me, smash that like button, please. Get your comments in down below if there's anything I might have missed in this video, and as well if there's anything you might have learned from it that you didn't expect, and let's get straight into it. We're going to take a brief look at some of the shooting stats, and this is of course on FBref if you do want to follow along or if you do want to verify some of these stats here. Let's take a look, of course, and remind ourselves who the leading scorer is this season. Of course, was Sonny after he grabbed that hat trick against Burnley, and I felt like those goals were well deserved after what was maybe, a bit of a, semi, decent start against you could say Brentford, but then following that, against Man United and Bournemouth and then Burnley, I thought he's had a sensational season. James Maddison has actually recorded the most shots, though, of any player in this team. Sonny's second with 10, but I think what's interesting right there is Sarr with the third most shots in the whole squad, actually tied with Sonny right there. So actually tied second, should I say. And that really speaks to his box-to-box presence. Also shows, how much higher up the pitch maybe he is. And he's also given that license to sort of, roam into the box and be maybe a late runner. And we've seen that with the goal he scored against Man United and also just some of the runs that he sort of makes in general in the final third. That is a really great stat to see there. Let's take a look at some of the shot creating actions and goal creating actions. Now, this is sort of a very nerdy stat, I must be honest, but it is actually a helpful one. It's just sort of a general kind of measurement of creativity. It can happen, through sort of a shot on goal, foul drawn. It can be from some pressure that you put on maybe a defender that sort of leads to a chance created. It can be from, just taking your man on and creating an opening that way. A variety of different ways it can sort of be registered, this shot creating action, but it is just sort of a general measurement of creativity. And then also as well, it can go further with even a goal creating action too, right? But James Maddison, again, dominating in sort of the creativity department with 25 being the leader, but Sonny not far behind him and once again showing that his creative side to his game is a bit underrated. And I just feel like this season, his general overall play, he's been able to sort of get with this Postecoglou type of manner of playing, very quickly. I think he's, passing the ball around, in a very efficient manner, far more efficient than what Richarlison's been with the ball. He's not really lost it all that much. He's been very good at either, sort of just playing it back to where he came from, turning, trying to play it forward, being very positive with it. He's just been very good, in general with his overall hold-up play. And also, too, even with his back to goal, as a striker, he showed to be very good. And his general movement is always going to be, one of his best parts of his game. But just his overall possession play has been very stellar. And if anyone thought that he would struggle, I think in this Postecoglou, very quick, fast-paced type of play, with the ball at his feet, he's definitely not been struggling whatsoever. Kulusevski, I must be honest, it's good to see that he's third, but he's actually registered, of course, more minutes actually than Sonny has. And, he's far behind with actually 14 shot creating actions. Sarr has also played fewer minutes than Kulusevski has, and he's not far behind Kulusevski. So that does show that, maybe Kulusevski, you could say, I wouldn't say he's underperforming, but he could be performing slightly better, but he's not performing at his best right now. If you look at even Sarr's sort of kind of minutes, or at least look at his shot creating actions per 90 at this stage, if right now, Maddison, of course, very high there because, he's just been our chief creator. But you look at players like Sonny, very high up there, and also Sarr, he's actually registering more shot creating actions per 90 than Kulusevski has. And you could say he's played enough minutes that this isn't, maybe the worst comparison in the world, whereas I wouldn't compare maybe Lo Celso or Perisic really to him at all. At least that's how I feel about it. When you look at two, though, goal creating actions, that's very important, right? How important were they in actually, playing a part in the actual goals that we have scored? Destiny Udogie tied with James Maddison. That is absolutely baller. And you must say, a guy that is not going to really be always, involved in the play nearly as much as someone like Maddison will be, for him to be, as as involved or as sort of, major or as taking as major of a part as he did, in the goals that we have scored for a fullback is just impressive. So well done to Destiny Udogie being high up there in that department. Now, if we take a look at key passes, which is actually a really great way to measure creativity because it is actually a pass that leads directly to a shot on goal, and you see that James Maddison once again, very creative player leading in that category with 10, and with Sonny with 9 there. And it does show that, a stat that maybe isn't often maybe mentioned enough. I think with Sonny's game, he's always done a very good job at registering plenty of key passes, and it kind of just sort of reflects, I think, his sort of underrated creativity, a part of his game. Kulusevski not far behind with 7. Manor Solomon, this is where I think a huge part must be brought up here. Manor Solomon registering 5 in just one match says a lot about how great of a game he had in being able to create for others. When we looked at sort of his game at Shakhtar Donetsk, more of sort of an impact player in kind of the goal scoring sense than he really was sort of being able to create for his teammates. But I think Manor Solomon is probably working on that, or in the Ange Postecoglou system is sort of getting more out of his game to be able to create for others, because the fact that he basically halved James Maddison, who has been our chief creator this season, in just one match with those key passes is very impressive, and absolute, real credit to what a performance that he had against Burnley. When you take a look at some of the progressive passes, which is a pass of 10 yards or more, you can see that James Maddison is dominating in that department, but I don't think he would be if he wasn't given that license to drop deep. I feel like previous managers for James Maddison have kind of seen him more as a forward, even just recently with Gareth Southgate, he was playing on that left wing, and he's not been given that sort of license, that sort of trust to be more of a midfielder, allowing him to drop deep, pick up the ball off the center backs, pick up the ball off of a guy like Yves Bissouma, and then kind of spray a pass forward to kind of get moves going, and he's been absolutely brilliant at doing that with us at Spurs, and that sort of reflects, with how dominant he is in that sort of progressive passing department. You have Yves Bissouma as sort of our deep line playmaker, and second, not much of a surprise there. I can't even explain how Sonny is that high up there. I just think it's credit, again, to just sort of how creative he is, and just sort of how good he is at being able to sort of get moves going on his own, and he's not given enough credit for it, in my opinion. But we also see Romero kind of a bit further down the list there, but for a center back, it just shows how good he is at trying to sort of get moves going on his own. He's not sort of the center back that's just going to try to look to pass it sideways and sort of put the pressure on someone else to kind of make something happen. He's happy to do it on his own. He actually is always looking forward. If you ever kind of keen in on him, he's always trying to look for somebody to sort of break the midfield lines and sort of hit it into, and he usually even is able to do it on the floor, which is quite impressive without even needing to sort of kind of dink it over the top or anything like that. Passes into the penalty area. James Maddison has been, one of our, I think, crossers, from the corner kick situation. So it could be slightly, kind of inflated by that. I could be wrong though. Sonny, not much of a surprise though. He's been very good at being able to sort of kind of play those intricate passes. I feel like into the box to sort of kind of find somebody. Dejan Kulusevski with 6, but Ivan Perisic with 6 as well. But Perisic has played far fewer minutes than Kulusevski has. So I must say that's kind of a bit of a concern that Perisic has been so much better, you could say, in his little time on the pitch to be able to sort of, create for others and putting those passes into the penalty area. Take a look at who's getting stuck in most for Spurs. We're looking at Yves Bissouma for sure, because he has to also be that destroyer as well as being sort of the tempo setter in possession, but he has to be a destroyer in the defensive side of things, and he has the most tackles won in the whole squad. When you look at one-on-one situations with dribblers, he's gotten 8 from 12 tackles. He's only, lost out 4 times, and it's actually one of the higher ratios as well of anybody in the team. He's been brilliant at being able to sort of be that one-man midfield at times when James Maddison as well as Pop Matasar are caught too far forward. So really credit to Bissouma and being that sort of destroyer for us, as well as being really good in possession, as he's credited for. Blocks, when you're looking at someone who loves to throw himself in front of the line, you look no further than Christian Romero. He's been brilliant in that part this season, and you actually look at some of the blocks he has had. I think they have prevented goals, if you ask me. They've been very good blocks indeed. Tackles and interceptions, Yves Bissouma high up there once again. You look at Destiny Udogie, though, with 14 tackles and interception. He's shown to be very good and very solid defensively this season. Dejan Kulusevski very high up there, and while we're kind of catching some of the stats that don't really put Kulusevski in a great light, he has been always very good on the defensive side of things. He put in a lot of pressure. He just works very hard off the ball, so it's nice to see that Kulusevski is maybe at least getting a bit of credit for that and showing some appreciation by us over here in that department. When we're looking at clearances, not much of a surprise. It's going to be Mickey van de Ven and Christian Romero leading in that case, but Destiny Udogie once again leading high up there. He's been very good defensively for us. Let's look at some of the possession numbers and see who does a very good job at being able to create for others just on their own by beating their man and carrying us up the pitch and just sort of doing a lot of different things in possession without even actually passing it. Let's see who's had the most touches in the team. It's been Yves Bissouma once again. Not much of a surprise because I do feel like he is sort of that chief creator in our team from those deep lying areas, so he's going to be asking a whole lot of the ball. When we look at who's had the most touches inside the penalty area, it's been Sonny as well as Kulusevski, and Kulusevski I think has done a very good job at receiving the ball and having good touches inside the penalty area, but I do feel like he's been a bit wasteful with those chances. Let's see who's tried to take on their man the most inside the whole team. It has been Bissouma. He's been a one-man press-breaking machine. Very good to see that. I'm actually a bit surprised by that statistic just because, for a defensive midfielder, you would feel like they're going to be sometimes a bit risk-averse, but not Bissouma. He's so good at trying to break the press and being able to get moves going, just from sort of taking his man on than actually trying to pass it around them. Kulusevski's attempted some of the most there as well. He's very, he's very direct. He's very sort of progressive and very positive, when he comes in those one-on-one situations. We see Destiny Udogi's attempted plenty as well. Richarlison has attempted plenty, but maybe hasn't been as successful as we would like him to be. And then Sonny as well, James Maddison, all very high up there and quite close to each other. Who's been the most successful? It has been Bissouma. He also looks like one of the highest successful ratios of them. James Maddison's been very successful with it. He has a pretty decent ratio of them. Kulusevski, not so much, actually. His ratio of them is actually quite low compared to other players inside the team. Sonny's is a bit higher, in fact, than Kulusevski's, and Richarlison's is actually not that far behind Kulusevski's, which is actually interesting to look at when you're looking in sort of the take-on department. Destiny Udogi seems to not be very high up there, but I don't really know how much to really read into that one. Let's take a look at some of the progressive carries and see who's leading in that department. A progressive carry is a sort of a carry that leads, is 10 yards or more, that carries the team forward 10 yards or more, and it's a very good stat to look at sort of who's able to get a move going, who's able to break the lines of the opposition just on their own without needing to pass it, and who's just sort of a good ball carrier in general. And it has been Dejan Kulusevski for us with 20 progressive carries. He does find himself in good positions to try to lead sort of those transitions, to lead those counterattacks when we need to. And also he's just been kind of that direct player in that kind of regard. Destiny Udogi, I sort of expected him to be actually at the highest or to have the most, but he's still close behind Kulusevski there. Sonny's high up there, as is Yves Bissouma. And Ivan Perisic, for someone who's played very few minutes, is actually very high up there as well. Very impressive. Shows he's had a very positive impact when he's come into the game. Let's look at who's carried the ball into the penalty area the most. It's Kulusevski there. I feel like he's very direct. He's very good at trying to get the ball, closer to the box. But when he's had these moments inside the penalty area, I feel like he's been a bit wasteful with them. So while this is good to see that, he's been leading our team and trying to get us into the penalty area, get us into the box closer to goal, I feel like he has been, again, once a little bit wasteful with the chances that he has had. Take a look at some of the more miscellaneous stats that maybe haven't been covered yet. Fouls drawn, James Maddison leading in that category. I'm actually not surprised by that. Something that we did highlight when signing James Maddison, that it was something he led, I think, in the league in, or something, that he was very high when it came to sort of other creative midfielders and wingers in his position when we compared him to other Premier League players. He actually ranked very high when it came to fouls drawn per 90, so that's interesting to see. Let's see who's actually fouled the most of any of our players. Destiny Udogi has committed the most fouls. Very aggressive player. We saw that moment with Brian Mbuemo where he's just practically, holding it by his sides, going for a little dance with him, and it was beautiful to see. And he's a very strong physical player, Destiny Udogi, but I wouldn't say at all he's been too aggressive or has, been reckless at all with his challenges. And so, not something to be all that worried about. And when it comes to even yellow cards, right, everybody's on one. Nobody's committed even more than one yellow card at this stage. Recoveries, that's just sort of any loose ball, in the pitch, on the pitch, that can sort of be recovered by either side, which is a good sort of reflection of someone's awareness as well as just sort of anticipation and being in the right place at the right time. Yves Bissouma and Destiny Udogi have been very good in that department, as has Mickey Van de Ven, which is nice to see. Let's look at who's won the most aerials. It has been Mickey Van de Ven and Christian Romero, but Van de Ven has played more minutes technically than Romero and has actually already lost out more times than Romero has. But I wouldn't say Van de Ven has at all really concerned me when it comes to the aerial department. I haven't seen him really lose, too many, or haven't seen him lose one that really gave me any sort of concerns or worries at all. So who can we say are dominating the stats this season? Well, James Madison for sure. And what a signing he has been. Definitely showing, at least in the stats category, to be one of the better signings of the Premier League this season. Yves Bissouma ranking in some pretty good categories, especially the one about some of the successful take-ons that he's having, just showing that he's a one-man press-breaking machine, but he's also getting stuck in as well. He has some of the most tackles and interceptions of any Premier League player. So to lead in successful take-ons and tackles and interceptions, just two kind of polar opposite stat categories. Really great to see that. Destiny Udogie definitely popped up a few times in some, areas as well. That's really great to see. Also, we have Sonny, I think, showing that he is far better creatively than maybe given credit for. A lot of good numbers to see from the squad in general. Really, I think, fun to do this as well, just sort of to see how our Spurs players are ranking around the Premier League, how they look, compared to each other. Just getting some good sort of insight from this. And I think there's always some sort of, insight, some sort of lesson learned, maybe some sort of factoid that we can take out of it for next. But everybody, I hope you enjoyed this. Good to sort of get through some of the stats. Please smash that like button on your way out. Leave a comment down below if there's anything I might have been missing, but I will be seeing ya. Come on, you Spurs, and in the big Ange, I trust. See ya, everybody.